Google, it says that only 10% of trainees actually end up debuting. Is this true? I'm gonna tell you it's probably not. This number is way too high, but obviously there are scenarios where companies do end up debuting 10% of their trainees. It could be even higher for all we know. But like anything else in the K-pop industry, everything varies from company to company, from generation to generation, and from group to group. Everything is different, and companies don't really share how many trainees they have in the first place unless it's like a special project like Hype with Trainee A and SM with what they used to do with SM rookies. Even in this case, there's still some trainees that they're hiding, and only a portion of trainees are actually showcased publicly. Now, I could talk about this topic hours and hours nonstop, but we're gonna get back onto the topic on hand, which is 10 reasons why trainees actually end up not debuting. And we're gonna start with the more so, common sense kind of ones, and then go into the more absurd ones. So the very first one is because the skill of the certain trainee is not up to par with the other members. I think this is the most common and the most fair way to not end up debuting a trainee. If the skill level of a certain trainee is so vastly different from the other members and they stand out in a not so good way, this gives a company a fair reason not to debut them. And because of this reason and the severe competition that all of these trainees go through, a lot of current idols describe their past trainee lives as almost being like a survival show, just that they're not being filmed. And I really do agree with this because every trainee competes with one another, and every monthly evaluation that they go through is like a test to see if they're going to make it or not. And it's also one of the reasons why being a trainee is so mentally straining. At any point, one of your colleagues could be kicked out and never to be seen again. That's kind of like the scary part about being a trainee. And you don't even know if that same situation will be happening to you in the next month, next 2 months, or whatnot. Now, I know that was like a lot, but it is a truth, and I'm here to deliver the truth. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay, so the second reason is because the company is looking for a set amount of trainees and they already have that. For example, Weekly is supposed to have 7 members, obviously, because they each represent specific days. And if they have 10 trainees that they currently have, for example, that's a small amount, but let's just say that there's 10 people in the debut lineup. Obviously, 3 are going to have to get kicked out, and that is just unfortunate, but it's most likely the case if the company is looking for a specific concept that requires a certain amount of members. And this is why trainees always have to be the best one there is. Otherwise, they don't know if they're going to debut or not, because up until the very, very final debut lineup, the company is not going to share how many members that they're specifically looking for, unless in special scenarios like it is really like a survival show situation where they initially share that 5 members is what we're going to create, for example. So again, there's that constant competition that all trainees have to go through, and their mindset of having to always be the best. Otherwise, they don't know what's going to happen to them. Okay, so the third reason is because the style of this trainee doesn't necessarily fit the concept that the company is looking for. Like, let's say this person with the most perfect visuals, the perfect vocals, perfect dance, perfect rap, everything, they have it all, is more so of a girl crush vibe, but the company is planning to debut an innocent, cute kind of concept. Then will they make it in? I don't know. That's really up to the company, and it's a really different situation if they're really the most perfect person in the world, but realistically that is not the case, and the company is going to choose people, trainees, that fit the concept best. And it's not always about who's the best in general. They also have to have cohesion with one another and follow the concept of what they're going for. And there are situations where companies choose a concept based on the trainees that they have, but more so likely is that they choose a concept first and then they choose the trainees that match that concept. Why? Because typically when they visualize a group, they don't necessarily look at the members first. They look at what they're trying to go for and envision with the group. And number 4 is a really unfortunate reason, because this is really uncontrollable, is visa reasons. And this is specifically for foreign members. Like, let's say their visa doesn't end up working, like it's really difficult to gain a work visa due to their own country's laws, then they simply can't debut in Korea because they can't even stay in Korea, obviously. So those are the situations where it's not really anyone's fault, it's just like the situation in itself. And number 5 is their digital footprint, which I think is increasingly becoming more popular when it comes to checking up on the members, because bullying scandals can definitely ruin not only the member but the group in itself, and it just creates so much problems that the company does not want. So in this day and age, all of the companies definitely do background checks on their trainees. And when they do background checks, the things that they're looking for, I made a list, is if they've bullied in the past, if they cyberbullied in the past, if they've left hate comments on a certain artist in the past, if, just you posting is something weird, it might not be good, obviously. And then underage drinking, digital footprint of that could definitely be uploaded on social media platforms. And if the company doesn't like what they see, they are definitely going to cut you out of the debut lineup, because all of these things, at the end of the day, they do overpower how perfect of an individual you may be now, because the industry will really never forgive you for that, and that is the realistic sense of any entertainment industry or being a public figure. And number 6 is a trainee's attitude. And honestly, I think this is one of the main reasons why a lot of groups face downfall. Because if one member is kind of ruining the entire vibe of the group, they're never going to get along with one another, and in the end there's going to be some kind of bullying scandal or whatever scandal that might arise out of it. Okay, so this reason might be because they're rude to the staff and people that actually work at the company. Obviously, they're not going to like her in any way, and that kind of treatment is going to continue on if they end up debuting too. And number 7 is physical and mental health. Some trainees simply cannot follow along the harsh life of a trainee, harsh life of an idol, and they can't keep up mentally or physically. Those are kind of common situations where the trainee decides to leave themselves, or the company says, hey, we kind of think that this isn't probably the best idea for you just because it's going to hurt you even more. Like, let's say they can't dance long term because they have an injury. Then they're probably not going to end up debuting, because it's only going to cause problems for, honestly, everyone. It's going to cause problems for everyone, not only themselves and them hurting their back or whatever. And then on a mental level, if they can't keep up mentally and kind of deal with the pressures of being a trainee or being an idol, then obviously it's probably not in the best cards to do that. And number 8 is age. And this actually tends to be the situation when their parents don't want them debuting at such a young age, or maybe they say, no, you need to focus on school, and that kind of falls in with age as well. And if they're too young to debut, a lot of situations, they're going to kind of hold that off and keep on training them even more so that later on they can debut. Like, for example, I think Tanaka, and he used to be in the audition program or like a survival show, and he was 12, and even though he actually made it to the lineup, he never actually ended up debuting because his parents thought, or I guess the company thought, that it wouldn't be the best idea to debut someone so young, which raises the question, why did you put him in this survival show in the first place if you weren't going to debut him? Number 9, we get into more of the more so absurd reasons, and that is height. If everyone in your group is 160 and you are 190, it's probably not the best idea for a company to debut, just because it doesn't look very cohesive, and it'll be extremely difficult to get the right choreography with someone that's like, so much taller than the other members. And honestly, this goes for the other way as well. If everyone in your group is 170 or somewhere near that, and you are 153, then it's probably not the best idea to debut you. Okay, and the very last one, number 10, is siblings. And you guys might know about this, but JYP doesn't allow, siblings to debut, even if they're not in the same group. Even if they're completely different generations, they still don't allow that because they think it'll cause problems of comparing with one another and different situations like that. Honestly, I disagree with them, because as long as they're not in the same group, I think it's totally fine. If they're in different groups, I don't think there should be an issue caused. JYP forced, I don't know, one of them to, Chaeyeon or Chaeryeong, I didn't even explain the situation, oh my god, Chaeyeon or Chaeryeong to leave because they couldn't both debut, and Chaeyeon ended up leaving. And I think that's just like such a lost cause for JYP, but hey, I'm not their audition manager, I'm not their casting crew, so what am I gonna do about it? But honestly, I think JYP is so far the only company that has this rule set in place. Who knows, maybe it could have changed and they will end up debuting a sibling in another time. But for now, that is the rule. But don't go yet. The question of today's video is, what do you think is the most common, realistic reason why trainees don't end up debuting? Leave your answers down below. Just choose amongst these 10, literally drop a number down and, put your reasoning, whatever you'd like. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye! I don't want to reach that. Bye bye!